Okay, good evening again, everybody. Welcome to a Jaminar. This evening, we will be having the first Jaminar in the series. Starting up today is Thursday in the East, or Jamaica time, Thursday, August 13th. And this is 6:07 p.m. Jamaica time, 7:07 Eastern time. And of course, it's a little past 3 a.m. Shari's time in the Middle East. No, this Jaminar is known as teaching students with learning disabilities in the general ed classroom, inclusive practices. We are going to go through these. As way of introduction, Miss Shari N. Franklin, she grew up in Jamaica, where she is proud of formative education received there in Jamaica. After graduating high school, Shari moved to the US for college with a master's degree in special ed and certificate in administration and supervision. Shari has worked both as a teacher and as an administrator in the field. Currently, she works in Abu Dhabi as special education coordinator in an international school. Welcome, everybody. Miss Shari Franklin, and I'm going to hand over to her to do her thing. Thank you very much, Miss Franklin.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks again to JD Tan for inviting me to do this workshop. I'm right now looking at a screen, my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Can you see my screen? Okay, good.
Yeah, perfect.
So yes, we're going to work on today, or we're going to talk about teaching students with learning disabilities in the general education classroom. Thank you to those of you who in the chat started me off with your greatest challenges that you have. And all of those challenges that you have written have exist everywhere, but we can get into it a little bit later. Let me say that if you were with us for the seminar, the virtual seminar a couple weeks ago, the presentation is a little bit similar. The difference this time is that we're going to be able to do a little bit of breakout and problem solve with some simple cases, which should be a lot of fun as well and informative. I've been doing this a long time, and I will say that as time has gone on, things have gotten better in the world of special education, even at home. The story that I shared the last time was that as a student in high school, I could see that there were classmates of mine that were struggling, and the lack of resources to engage those students was so significant. The behavioral challenges, etc., were so significant. As a student, I could even see them. And that is what kind of steered me in the direction of doing special education. I didn't know I was doing special education when I went into college per se, but I knew I wanted to help children who were having a hard time learning in class. So it wouldn't be so obvious because, and Marky, I left high school quite a while ago. All right, so our workshop expectations, Dr. Dice alluded to this. Mute your microphones while we're on, of course, until we get to the breakout rooms. I put the camera is optional, but Dr. Dice says we need to keep it on. And of course, any questions, please feel free to use the chat box. So let's get started. In special education in general, there are a number of areas that are considered special need. This graphic right here, I took from the Education Endowment Foundation of the UK. It did a guidance report on the special education needs in mainstream schools. So we know that the areas of special need in general have to do with cognition and learning, working of the brain, how students acquire information. Then you have the communication and interaction. So we're talking about speech, we're talking about those that perhaps may be on the spectrum, having having a place on the autism spectrum line. Then we have the social, emotional, and the mental health needs. Again, that has more to do with students with behavioral challenges, and again, basic mental health. We could try and figure out where that comes from, but anyway, and then of course, sensory and or physical needs, those that have physical disabilities, those that have issues with lighting and sound and touch, etc. I think this part is very important, that students diagnosed with a special need are individuals first. They are not their disability. Also, the challenge in special education is that, you know, I can say, seat this child who's, you know, a mover who moves around a lot on one of those exercise balls, and it will strengthen his core and he won't move around as much, but that might not work for another child. So strategies that works with one student may not work with another student, okay? But the key is to find the way that works for each individual student. I put, hey, how can you do that? And you can answer in the chat box, but I'll quickly give you one solution. Ask the student. That's the one piece in education that sometimes I think we miss, that we don't ever ask the student. Tell me how you feel. What works best for you? How do you feel when? And a short 5-minute conversation with a student can really lead to success in class. And I'm not asking you about this one, I'm telling you it works. And it is a challenge I even have right now with students and teachers that I work with. I don't know why. Did you ask the child? No? Okay, why don't you ask? And then all of a sudden, things become a little bit clearer and we know exactly how to motivate, assist, and develop strategies for children. So, okay, today we're going to work on cognition and learning. Well, God willing, things happen well, we could probably get into a series, Dr. Dice, wink, wink, and we can deal with other disabilities. So today we're really going to work on cognition and learning, and specifically learning disabilities. What is a learning disability? It is a neurological or genetic concern with a child that alters the brain functioning that affects cognitive processes that are related to learning. Okay, so we're talking about auditory processing, visual processing. We're talking about working memory. Again, when we're dealing with IQ, you know that there are different 4 areas that are really focused on to figure out an IQ. And usually when we identify students with learning disabilities, we will see one area that's a little bit deficient that can lead us into how to support the students. Of course, these problems interfere with the reading, writing, and math. And one of the big pieces that we forget sometimes is that it also interferes with long and short-term memory. That's what we're talking about when we say working memory, and organization. You know, planning, how to even think about thinking is part of their problem. Please know that students with learning disabilities have average to superior IQs. It has nothing to do with being stupid or being dumb or being intellectually disabled. We don't usually classify a student who's intellectually disabled as having a learning disability in general. There are exceptions, but most students with learning disabilities have average to superior IQs. There's just one area in which they have deficiencies. So of course, you know this already, that many the types of learning disabilities that are out there are dyslexia, difficulty with reading, can't identify speech and how they relate to letters and words, or they see a word and they flip it. They can't tell the difference between a B, a D, a P, a Q. We have dysgraphia, difficulty with writing skills. Again, they're not able to think and write at the same time. And of course, poor legibility. And that has a lot to do with organization too. They're the ones that are not starting at the margin, or they can't figure out that this word is going to be too long for the sentence. So they squish up the letter, or they continue on the second line. You know those kids. And dyscalculia, which is difficulty understanding math, relationships in math, and numbers. And we're not talking about fear of math. We're talking about, I just don't get that there are 3 items on the table and the numeral 3 is what represents those 3 items, all right? Again, similar to what I said on the previous slide, we call them comorbid because it happens at the same time. There are some comorbid disorders that go along with many students with learning disabilities. And these disorders are, of course, the attention deficit disorder or the attention deficit hyperactive disorder, executive functioning deficits, that's the organization, and processing disorders such as auditory, language, visual disorders. So what's dyslexia? And I kind of put a lot on this slide because I think you guys, or many of us, already know what dyslexia kind of looks like. Again, I want to remind you that though they may have these concerns, these are students who can learn. It's the how that is most important. So dyslexia, confused by letters or words or sequences, and even verbal explanations. They're really not hearing you, or are they, and sometimes they're not even able to read an explanation and understand what it's saying. When they read, they skip over letters, or, you know, those are the ones that forget about the vowels sometimes. There are substitutions, reversals in letters. In early childhood, and we know about developmentally appropriate behaviors. In early childhood, a lot of times we will see students that will reverse numbers, right? That will reverse letters, and we consider that okay, and that is developmentally appropriate. But when we get to grade 5 and we're still doing that, there may be some strategies we need to institute for the student to be more successful. The dyslexic child is reading and rereads and still doesn't get what's happening. Many of the times, of course, that's because they're not able to identify the letters, the letter sounds, do it quickly enough to understand what they're reading. So by the time they get through a sentence, they've spent so much time decoding that they don't have any idea what they just read. And that goes here into the fluency. They're not fluent in reading, so their comprehension is reduced. However, you give it to them orally, many of them, and they have it. They're right on it. They can explain everything. They can, you know, give you step by step. They can give you evidence and details because they've received it auditorily. So they read really slowly. Those are the ones that you sit and you're like, oh my goodness, this is going to take forever. They don't read for pleasure. And of course, they're going to use vocabulary that is simple, easy to use, and easy to spell. So what are some strategies that we can use for working with students like this? So again, explicit teaching. One of the things one of the buzzwords or items around town these days is using metacognitive strategies. And what that is that you're teaching students to think about how they're thinking. You're teaching them the process of what to do when. You're teaching them, again, with the same strategies, when a B is a B, the stick is on the left, it's a B. If the stick is on the right, it's a D. You're teaching them these strategies. You're allowing them to quickly retrieve strategies that you've taught. Of course, with reading, we have to use research-based programs for reading. There are a number of them, and in the resources at the end, I'll share that as well. And again, one of the ones that I promote a lot, just because I've seen it work, and it takes 10 to 15 minutes per day, is Toe by Toe, where they're just quickly going through first letter names, then letter sounds, then CVC words, and it grows all the way to reading paragraphs. It's been an effective tool for students who are learning disabled, who have average cognitive ability. Works beautifully. The use of graphic organizers. Good teaching always chunks and scaffolds information and, you know, coming back to it, reteaching. Of course, technology is a big deal in teaching and learning these days. Using speech to text or text to speech, that's one of the, again, I have a student specifically in my mind that she could not gather her thoughts together. She couldn't write it by the time she was writing her words. She forgot what she was thinking about. And we use the iPad or the tablet for her to record what she has to say. Then she can go back and edit it in Word. Works beautifully for her last year, and she's in grade 9. And it really gave her a sense of success, especially last year. Of course, we know about differentiating material, the content, the process, the product, where this child is going to learn, and we'll get into that a little bit more shortly. And then, of course, making appropriate accommodations for the students. As we continue, I know, again, this is for general ed teachers, and I'll bring this up later, but it is important that you do have good relationships with the special ed support people that are in your building. I applaud you because, again, doing these workshops and doing your research will really give you clear ideas on how to address the needs of students with learning disabilities. So dysgraphia, what are characteristics and strategies having to for dysgraphia? So you see that kid that, you know, is holding the pencil really, really hard, can't even get through writing one word without being exhausted. Like I said earlier, all the words are chunked together. They don't know anything about finger space, or again, word falling off the page or going around to the next line. You know, they're always erasing because they don't know if what they wrote was correct, or it is incorrect and they can't figure out which way to do it. So they're more obsessed with erasing. Poor spelling as well, unfinished words, missing letters. So you see there's a little bit of combination with dyslexia there as well. Maybe the way the wrist or the position of the paper while they're writing. Again, just because somebody writes with their hand in a funny position doesn't mean they have dysgraphia. It's when it's a combination of all these things. I think of a cousin of mine that he wrote really odd with his left hand on this left-handed day, and but he wrote faster than I did and prettier than I did. He was not dysgraphic. He just learned a different way, and it was okay. And of course, kids with dysgraphia have the issue with writing and thinking at the same time. So sitting in class and taking notes while the teacher is doing the lecture just does not work very well for a child with dysgraphia. So what are some of the things that we can do for students with dysgraphia? What are some strategies? So maybe shorter writing assignments or slightly different questions from classmates. Maybe we can use a computer to write instead, or to type responses, again, where appropriate and where accessible. I know one of the challenges that was put in the chat was about resources. I understand that. But for those that do have access to the technology, again, we don't have to think about, the child with dysgraphia now doesn't have to think about what the B really looks like. It's right there and they can just type it in, yeah? So maybe we, since they are not taking notes, maybe we're going to give them copies of our PowerPoint. Maybe we're going to give them copies of our class notes with maybe main ideas missing, so they're only filling in shorter pieces of information. Using voice to dictation machine or electronic note taker, like I said, voice to text also works on a tablet. An option to record the lectures. That's another thing that we do in class. The other thing we do is that we have our PowerPoints accessible to the students. It's another area in terms of resources, I understand, but if you're there, or if you can get it done, you know, start. When students are handing in work, perhaps they're doing video or they're doing audio reports instead of fully written out assignments. And again, oral assessments instead of written exams. I know this cannot happen all the time, but while we're doing in-class things and we're teaching the students how to write and how to address their disabilities, there are other things we can do in the meantime. We're continuously assessing. Not all assessments within our class have to be written. Dyscalculia, oh my goodness. So this child that has this learning disability in math has difficulty telling time, managing time, understanding sequences. They're still using their fingers to calculate in math. Again, using your fingers to calculate doesn't mean you have dyscalculia, but again, this is just one of the characteristics. Can calculate things in their head perhaps, but when you say, all right, show me, write it, it's just not coming. Being able to form the letters, etc., it's not happening. Fails at doing word problems, don't understand higher levels of math, and like I said, you know, unable to match numeral to a set of numbers. So what are some of the strategies? The use of a calculator, maybe giving a child step-by-step directions on how to complete a word problem or a multi-step problem. Again, I go back to the scaffolding and chunking of information and differentiating accommodations. Use of manipulatives. Again, we're talking about being able to use these things while we're teaching, again, one, the metacognitive strategies to be able to complete such problems. We're just giving them the strategies until it becomes automated that they can do it on their own. So yes, our intervention starts really early. One of the comments in the chat about your challenges is that many times the assessments take too long and we miss out, or the child misses out on intervention. However, as a classroom teacher, you know you've done this, this is what works, this is the step that this child is at. You just pass that on to the next teacher, whether or not there's a formal assessment. If these are things that are working and you feel the child needs it, you pass it on. So the use of mnemonics, right? I think it was BODMAS or BOMDAS is one of them for order of operations. We say PEMDAS over here, so the parentheses exponents, and it works when we teach them these things and then how to solve it. I'll give you a really quick story for this one. This student actually is not learning disabled, she is intellectually disabled. She's actually on the spectrum. We were doing an assessment, and for assessments in our school for the special needs students, we actually do pull them out of the class and give them, you know, extra time or small group and help with reading of the problems. So one of her accommodations is to be able to use a calculator. Well, you know, well, first of all, we had to teach her how to use the calculator, first step, and she was proficient at that. And it was a test on order of operations. So now if you know how to use a calculator and you put in a equation or a problem using order of operations, it's just easily going to calculate it. We already know that, yeah? You know how to use your brackets, you know how to use exponents on the calculator, et cetera. It's just gonna automatically do it. So I was challenged as an administrator, when I was watching her do this, and I said to her, sweetie, what are you doing? Miss, I do order operations. I said, yes, but how do you do it? Can you do it without the calculator? She said, yes, miss. I said, tell me, what is it? How do you do it? She went through the metacognitive process that she was taught. She said, miss, first, you write PEMDAS. I said, okay, great. What does that mean? Miss, and she explained it beautifully to me. I said, okay, so can you do this one problem using it? She was able to beautifully work it out without the calculator, but that session took a good 10 minutes for one problem. Does she understand order of operations? Yes. Did she remember PEMDAS? Yes. So her accommodation in using the calculator is more about time. Okay, but again, this was a child with an intellectual disability. She was taught how to think about the working out order of operations, and then she was given the accommodation of using a calculator where she could do the same amount of problems as her peers in about the same amount of time. Point is, not learning disabled, but intellectually disabled. And because she was taught, there was repetition, we scaffolded, we came back, we left it alone, she was able to do it. So these things do work with students. And again, partnering with other children is also helpful, a helpful strategy. Using peer and buddy system is helpful for all, many of these disabilities. So other extremely important strategies. Again, one of the comments was the parent partnership is very, very difficult in many situations, but it's important to teach students and parents about the disability. What does this mean? It doesn't mean you're stupid. Any child, any parent, and again, that's also a problem we have over here, when parents hear that their child needs extra help or they're not doing well, they think it's a reflection on them. And this is one of the pieces we have to get out, and we can't blame a parent. It is what it is. What are the things that you can do to overcome this? From the last session, the question was, how do you get parents on board? I liken disabilities to medical conditions. So you're telling me for your blood pressure, you're just going to ignore it? Or are you going to take something that's going to help normalize and get it to what it's supposed to be? That's the purpose of identifying your child as being dyslexic. We know what he needs, and wherever she goes along the way, people know how to address her needs. And also she knows what to do in order to overcome whatever challenges she may have. So teaching students about the disability, no, you're not stupid, sweetheart. You just have a problem with confusing letters. So I'm going to show you one way when you see it to figure out. It works. Supporting and praising students. Listen, when we think of, the very beginning of our life learning to be teachers, we talked about Maslow's hierarchy of need, right? And the bottom, the most basic need is that sense of safety and love, right? We need to let these children know that this is an okay place to make mistakes. We need to praise them when they're doing what we want them to do. They may not be getting 100%, but they're getting pretty close. We let them know why you're praising them. You know what? You sat through that lesson for 10 minutes without moving. I am so proud that you were so focused today. Let's see if we can move it to 15 minutes tomorrow. Little things like that, so they know what their targets are as you're praising them. Yes, time and patience is another one. And collaborating with students in your class, with the parents, of course, and other professionals in your building. There was something I wanted to say about that piece. I forgot. Moving on. Some of you may have seen this already, but it is my favorite graphic. and I use it every single time. People are going to get so sick of it, especially at my school, but I need to drive home the point. It's not about everybody receiving the same thing. That doesn't help. Yeah? It's about each person receiving what it is that they need to be successful. And as teachers, as we implement these strategies, the need for support may change. As this little one gets a little bit taller, he won't need 2 crates to stand up on to Tifa look at the game, right? He may only need 1. Alrighty. I'm going to fly through this a little, just because I think you're going to get to it when we talk about our case studies. But somebody writing on my page. In terms of differentiating material, one of the challenges also came up that one of our colleagues wrote in the chat box is how I don't have time to differentiate. I believe, and if I'm wrong, you can send me a note later. I believe good teaching, outstanding teaching, takes into consideration all students in the class. And when you're planning a lesson, again, as outstanding teachers, we don't go into the classroom and open up the book and say, okay, let me just teach from the book. We're planning as we're going along. And as we're planning, because we have had conversation with students, we know our students very well because we have done learning style inventories, whatever. As you're planning your lessons, you're thinking, oh, you know what? This is what I'm going to need to give Shari so that she'll be able to get it. As you're planning, all these things are in your head and you're just writing them down and preparing them as well. Again, using your own metacognitive strategies to be able to address the needs of all students in your class. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Yes, I'm not saying differentiating is very easy to do. It is a challenge, but the more you change your thinking, the more you think about the students in your class, plus the outcomes, the easier it is going to be to differentiate. The more you play around with tools and strategies, the easier it is going to be for you to say, oh yes, you know what would work? This would work in that situation. So the content, how are you going to present the information to the student? And a little bit of how they're going to learn the information that you present, right? So the use of audiobooks. If a kid is not going to be able to read the text, why can't we have it for them as in an audio version as well? So they're following along. It also helps when you say to the student, you know what, tomorrow you're going to read chapter 5, verse 3. I'm going to call on you in class. So go home, read along with the audiobook so you're prepared to read it out loud in class. Again, giving them the strategies to be successful in front of their peers as well. Using word lists and word banks and centers. And of course, teaching, when we teach, we're not going to just sit and lecture at students, but we're going to present information in multiple formats, auditorily, visually, and where possible, we're doing the touchy-feely as well. One of the benefits I will tell you in our situation here with COVID is that, we had the online learning, which pushed teachers not only to have these PowerPoint presentations online, but they also had to do voice recordings with it and, perhaps have animations or links for students to be able to go to see further explanation. For my special education needs students, online learning for the last month of it was extremely successful once they got into the routine and the habit. And yes, we did do one-on-one sessions with them. It made it so much easier for learning because they're like, oh, miss, she recorded her voice. I didn't have to read the 2 pages on my own. It reduced the cognitive overload and reduced the pressure on the child so they could actually focus on content of the material, yeah? The process is how they're going to learn the information. Okay, I won't be too long now. How they're going to learn the information. I mean, or how much time will they need to complete the task? Will they be able to use manipulatives or not? The levels of the activities. We use, in math class especially, we use, bronze, silver, gold. And we know the bronze problems are a little bit simpler, not too much in terms of steps, etc. And then our gold has similar problems, but also goes into word problems. So there are multiple, I can address multiple students in the class. The interesting thing about our tiered activities is that there are times when teachers will assign student-specific activities, and there are times when students can choose which one to do. So you may have a student that's really on a bronze level that says, you know what, I really get this time. I'm going to go for silver or gold. And that is their choice. However, we never allow those that are on gold, and we know they're gold standard, to do the bronze. Again, process using peers to also assist other peers. Extremely helpful in the class. The product, what are the students going to do to demonstrate their learning? So we talked about, again, sure, at the end of the year, many times there is a pen and paper assessment that we have to do, that we no stopping it, but during the school year, what are other ways that students can present information to demonstrate their understanding of the concept? That's the product. Here's what this child did. They totally understand the branches of government. Sure, it wasn't a 10-page paper, but they did a PowerPoint and used graphics from the internet, or they drew it out, whatever the case may be. And then of course, how the learning takes place. Where and how the learning takes place. Sometimes in the classroom, perhaps we have to pull them out. Like I said, many of my students for assessments, we do pull them out because it's a little bit less distracting. For students with dyslexia, many times the contrast between the typing on a piece of paper and the black and the white is too much for them. Just doing what we call colored laminates or overlays does help. And these are things that you can do in class. Sometimes it's literally turning the desk. You know what, Miss, I'm better when I can't see anybody. Can I turn my desk and sit in the corner? Sure, if that's what works for you, okay? And of course, when we talk about the environment, I put online because that's where we have been. This is just a quick list of accommodations. Again, these are the supports that we're giving students. There is a link and copies on the resources tab. So again, while you're doing your planning, while you're differentiating, you're thinking, okay, what is Sherry going to need to be successful? You know what? She can't figure out these math problems so well, so I will check on her regularly. So after each problem, she has to come to me, and so she doesn't do 10 of them wrong. I can check in on her regularly. Here's a writing assignment. You know what? She's going to need to come in a little bit earlier to get started. So we've extended the time for her. You know what? This one needs a little bit of a step-by-step direction on following. Let me make sure that that is provided. As you're planning your lessons, all these accommodations, the things that the children need are there for you to put in or add as you're planning. So how can you be an inclusive teacher? For me, get to know your student. Once you know your students, all of a sudden it's like the light bulb for us gets turned on. Ask them the question. Miss, it's boring. I don't like it. Is it boring? You don't like learning about ABA? What does this have to do with my life, Miss? And these are all these deflecting strategies that kids use, you know, so they're not held accountable. But once they can trust you, they will definitely share what works, what doesn't work. You know, I have it to the point where students were telling me, Miss, her voice annoys me. I can't stand hearing this teacher's voice. It's too high pitched. That's actually an auditory processing issue. It's not being mean. It is an auditory processing issue. So I have to ask the kid, what would help? Work through it. Collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. Like I said, many of our learning disabled students have strengths. Use those strengths to develop the challenges. use a variety of modalities, like I said. The model. Once again, going back to metacognitive strategies, when you're teaching, when you're standing up there in front of the classroom, you are modeling the metacognitive strategy. You are modeling, I don't know what that word means. So usually I have to figure out the context. Let me read the sentence before and after to see if I understand the meaning of that word. And you read the sentence before, you read the sentence after, go, oh, so that word must mean, or maybe, I still don't understand. Let me check a thesaurus, or let me check my this, or whatever. Model these strategies repetitively. Have the students model it for each other. Put those challenges in, yeah? And of course, be an advocate. Okay, I've done a lot of talking. Dr. Dice, I'm gonna need you to help me for a minute. So we're gonna use breakout rooms. There are a lot of people in here. Didn't expect this amount, but let's see how we can do this.
Yes, we have quite a lot of people now.
Say again, Dr. Dice?
We have quite a lot of people now, so we could do the breakout room, but it's going to be quite a few in each.
Well, let's just
try.
try.
About 50. It's going to be about 50.
Yeah. See, I put no more than 20 in the group, but it's okay. Let's. Why don't we try it?
Try. Yeah, we can try. Yes.
Let's try. All right. So you're going to join we're going to do the breakout rooms. One member is going to share their screen, write the case study number, and record the conversation. So the room is going to be according to your case study. Okay. I'll give you 10 minutes because they're really short, and I also want to hear your responses. And while you're doing that, I'm also going to look at your comments to see if I can answer any of the question. So the case studies are really short. So you're going to answer or discuss in your group for 10 minutes, what is the challenge with such a student in your class, of having this kind of a student with your class? My goodness, I forgot the question marks after, sorry. And for teaching, what strategies would you use to create success for the student? Okay, those are the things that I'd like you to discuss as you're going through it. Here are I'm going to put the case studies up.
So what we're going to do is share, when we create the room, we'll just share the case studies to everybody so you can see it.
Okay, great.
Yeah. You ready? 5 rooms?
5 rooms. Go right ahead.
Now, the folks who are asking about breakout, you just accept going into a breakout room. Once you get it, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breakout room 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you just accept one of those rooms, whichever one you got. It's going to be automatic. They put you in a room. And then what we do want is somebody just randomly choose to lead the room, choose to share your screen, and just start sharing ideas about the case study, okay? As according to what Ms. Franklin just said. Let me see if there's any. Are there any questions as to how we're going to do this in the breakout room from anyone? Because it's very simple. Go in the room, and then among yourselves, similar to what we have done in the past, someone just choose to lead in the room, share your screen, and talk among yourselves about the case study that is being presented, okay? Whichever room you're in, check the number, room number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to share the case studies once you get in the rooms. Okay, so you know which one you are. Just check the breakout room number on top of the screen that you'll be in. Just wait for a second. For those who are asking how to get in the breakout room, you'll get the notification in a couple seconds. So don't worry about getting in. Worry about the participation part. Okay. All right, hang on. Oops. Shari, don't accept, okay?
Okay, no, I'm reading comments. I'm trying to get to Pato.
Okay, good. Okay.
Tell me when they're in the room so I can start my 10-minute timer, please.
Okay, we're slowly getting there.
Yeah,
People are moving. They're moving.
Okay. Tell me when to
Yes.
speak.
Get into breakout rooms, everybody. All right. Let me go back to what I want you to do is see if you, because you're a co-host, see if you can share the document in all rooms since everybody is in a breakout room now.
Who's that? Not me.
You, yeah, you. Just the same document you put up right here. Yeah, share it in, see if you can share in a message to all. It said broadcast a message to all. Click on, do you see the breakout room icon at the bottom?
I do not have the breakout room icon on mine. Hold on.
Hold on, you're gonna get you.
Yes, breakout room. Okay.
Pardon?
Yeah, I got breakout rooms.
Or what you can do, go into each of them and share it. You can go in and out of breakout rooms. I just can't find you right here.
Why can't I find it? So I need to stop share then.
Yeah, stop sharing and then go share it in. Yeah, we need, those who are not assigned yet, you really need to get into a breakout room. Everyone who is not assigned, go into a breakout room. Choose to go into accept. Quite a few of you have accepted. Sorry, where are you? Those of us who are not in a breakout room, please go in at this time. Accept. There's a, Shari, you're muted. Hold on one second. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I did breakout room number 2. So I'm gonna go to each one of them and share it, yeah?
Yes, please. Yeah, do that quickly. And I set it for 50 something minutes.
But it's, you assigned me to breakout number 2.
Oh, I need to stop you from going. What I can do is, breakout number 2. Okay.
I did 2 already, so give me another one. Give me the others.
To find your, all right, here you go. All right, I'm gonna move you to, I'll just move you around. You did 2 already, so let's put you in room 1. And then I'll move you to the next one quickly. Okay. Those of us who are on the screen, you still haven't been in a breakout room, you need to get to a breakout room. Those of us who are still on the screen. All right, ready again? Okay. One second. Hold on, I can't find your name. Sorry. Hold on, sorry, I can't find your name. All right, there you go. Okay, so you're gonna go over to 3 and then come back quickly. Ready again?
They had it already.
Oh, wow, that's good. All right, so let's go to 4. That's very good. They're clicking away. All right, 4, there you go. Hold on, babe. Ready again? The last one. Last one.
Wait. Can you give them accessibility permission to annotate?
Okay. Well, I don't think they can annotate in the breakout rooms.
Okay, no problem. Let's move on.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Hang on. The 5th one. You're getting over to the 5th. All right. There you go.
Yes, and leave me in there. I'm going to hang out for a while in there.
Okay. Okay. How long is it though? Are you staying for everybody? Like 25 minutes?
I told them 10 minutes, but yes, let's let them go. It's fine.
Okay. So 10 minutes past the hour, we'll come back.
All right. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay.
The initial
Hi, everybody.
instructions that were given before we went into the breakout room, that was a part of it.
Okay.
So one part of it was what is the challenge of having such a student in your class, and then the next part would be what strategies would you use.
Up.
I hear a lot of discussion as it relates to the strategies, but we did not look at the first part. So yeah, what kind of challenges would Jerome have in a classroom?
Will it not disrupt the class?
Well, one, since he's not
recording.
Since he's not remembering the steps, he will not get the problem.
All right, sorry. Wait, you're muted. Yes.
No, I was looking for to see if I can answer the question.
Oh.
Everything good?
Everything is good. I went into a few rooms. They're working.
I was pleasantly surprised. Very nice.
Yeah, they're doing well. A few people asked for help, but well, when I went in there, they don't really need any help. They're discussing, so I don't know why.
It's all about the discussion. That's really what I wanted to get going.
Yeah.
Discussion.
I'm gonna remove a few people because they're not participating.
You know, if you look in the chat, there was one that said she couldn't get in. Hers kept dropping off because she was on this, that, and
Oh.
yeah. So I wouldn't take them off because I think they're trying. One was driving and internet. She said it in the chat. Kept dropping off.
Okay. Oh, I don't know what's going on with them.
This is making me want to go home.
Yes. Yes. I'm gonna swing into each of the rooms again and then see how.
I think I still have access to 5, so I'll go into 5.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do in the future, well, when you come back again, not to assign you to a room, I think because I assign you, that's why. If you just stay open, then you could just join as a co-host.
I see.
Yeah, all right, I'll see you in a little while. How's the discussion going, everybody?
Well, so far so good.
Okay. What's your case study?
Number one.
Case study 1. What is that about again? I don't have it up on my screen anymore. What is it about?
Who to the question? Someone.
Ronald is a grade 4 student who receives special education services for disabilities in reading and mathematics.
Okay.
He has difficulty in all areas of reading, such as decoding word blends and frequently used sight words. What strategies, accommodations can be utilized to address the student's needs?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Fraser.
Also, we could do color coding for math symbols.
Yes, that's a good one.
Is somebody writing down to share? We want one person to share.
Yes, somebody's writing.
Oh, good, good. Very good. Excellent. Very, very good.
You should also take into consideration the environment. The environment.
Give it more than one ways to solve it, and the one that he understands the best, that's the one that he could use. So instead of just push down one method down his throat that he may not understand, you show him different ones.
All right.
That could be done.
The case study says that he has attended after school tutoring and he
period. But if I give them a language question, asking them about when they go shop, then get it to you same way. They get it to you quick and fast. So probably this was place here for us to tap into it also. So probably whatever
life
we're trying to get out of them,
it's true,
whatever we're trying to get out of her,
the real life
to present it in a mathematical way.
In a scenario, you give them a mathematical scenario, yes, that could be good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, one of the strategies we could use the mnemonics, like Bundas, we could use mnemonics to teach whatever else we are using.
Exactly.
So they will
And go
remember
back to
it instead of writing it
metacognition.
down.
Yeah.
Right.
And go back to using the metacognition.
One of like the dyslexia, one of the learning disabilities, that the teacher is not necessarily doing differentiated learning for her. She's not she's not grasping it. You understand? So there's something that she needs, the teacher now needs to put in place for the student, because she can learn, because she is high functioning, meaning that she probably is really good at the reasoning and everything, because she was talking about the Dyscalculia, where if the teacher says it, they'll get it. But for them to get it as a test, and it's not something that's audio or something that she needs, she won't be interested in it. So that now can be the reason why she's doing poorly in both tests and assignments, because these things are things, it is in a format that she cannot handle. She knows her stuff, but she just can't handle whatever format the test and the assignment.
Go ahead, it'll never end.
I like the idea that you colleagues are also thinking of strategies, seeing that he is a high school student, right?
Yes.
Right? We're not just talking about you have a specific age to deal with. All right, you have about 2 minutes. I'm going to jump out. Thank you.
Okay. And we must always provide a very quiet space for him to work. Because if there's any distraction, it will disturb his, what do you say? It will distract him easily, any kind of noise.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that one too.
And always give him extra time on the test. Give him an extra time on the test. Because remember, as such, normal children also anxious for a math test. So we have to keep that in.
Very good, Shari. Very, very good. I've been to all of them. Wait, what's going on? Shari, you're trying to confuse my eyes. All right, I'm gonna close this down so everybody can come back. I'm not hearing you because you're muted.
I'm trying to find my PowerPoint back.
Oh,
I don't know
all
what
right. Let me wait.
Yeah, 30
I'm
seconds.
closing.
All right.
Yeah, they're gonna get 1 minute.
Okay. See if I can find.
Find your PowerPoint, yes. I love the discussions.
Oh, they're lovely.
Very, very good discussions, yes.
Where is this thing, my dear? Where did my PowerPoint go?
Check, did you close it or you look at the bottom of the screen if you minimize it?
You know what, because I did the link, here it is.
Okay. Oh, it's the link here. Okay.
There goes my timer.
Good timing.
I embedded one as well, but I knew that wasn't going to work. Cancel. You will have the resources available, yes?
Yes. All right. Let me see. But you can continue with the next part.
Okay. So Dr. Dice said he jumped into a few of the breakout rooms, as did I, and it was really good to hear each of you discussing many options for students and really focusing on the grade level that they're on and expectations based on the grade level that they're on. So Dr. Dice, I'm going to just ask for maybe one, I should go back to the thing, one discussion from each group.
That's fine, yes, totally fine.
All right, so let me go back to the case study for a second. All right, so would you open up, someone from the group, have you unmuted everyone?
Yeah, I enabled anyone to unmute themselves, but only the leader for each group, the person who's sharing from each group. So you can unmute yourself however you like.
So somebody from group case study 1 with Ronald, could you please share a couple of your ideas?
So unmute yourself.
Okay. I'm going to move to case study number 2. I'll come back to number 1.
Oh, are you ready? Okay.
All right, so I'll just share on behalf of the group.
Thank
you. We identified this student has dyslexia and dyscalculia. And for the dyslexia, we decided that we'd allow the child to use audiobooks, repeated reading, we'd make recordings for this child. Also, we'd use things like flashcards, modified assignments, and we would also involve peer teaching, where this child maybe works along with other peers with similar disability. To do reading activities, etc. And we also could involve games for this particular student. For the math disability, we decided that we could include like games, math games from YouTube. We have a lot of apps with different games. Also teacher-made games, and also the peer teaching strategy that we mentioned. We could use also manipulatives, allow the child to also reread the question, and we take into consideration things like the age level of the child, because also the environment, ensuring that the environment is conducive to learning, and color coding, math symbols, etc. These are some of them.
Thank you, group 1. That was well done. Very good. See how easy it just flows. You know exactly what a kid needs. You guys are further ahead than you realize. Alrighty, so someone from group 2. Thank you, Claudette.
Could we see the case studies?
It's on the screen.
Good afternoon.
Can you see it on the screen?
Yes, so.
No, the case studies aren't on the screen.
All right, I'll read it out because it says it's sharing on my screen, so I apologize. But case study number 2 is Jerome is a 4th form student. Oh, I messed up. He does not receive educational services. He's able to recall basic math facts first. I edited this. This is the wrong one. However, when solving more complex math problems with algorithms, he's unable to remember the steps and often loses his place. All the name different, Lord of mercy. It was supposed to be Jerome attended after school tutoring. However, scores on his class assignments and tests indicate his performance has not improved. What strategies and accommodations? Who for group 2?
All right, so for Jerome, we have identified his learning challenge as being dyscalculia. The challenge that would exist with Jerome in a class, we identified that he may be disruptive, he may be withdrawn, and his class participation may be limited. He may have poor self-concept and poor self-esteem, and he may refuse to complete given assignments. The strategies that we came up with, so the first one would use visual aids as it relates to charts, also to assist him with remembering step-by-step directions in completing mathematical problems. Also, we said we'd use peer tutoring, somebody said peer buddying that would use to assist, because students sometimes they may have a challenge learning it on their own or from the teacher, but they may understand it if the peer explains it to them. So would use that. So we'd also use technology. We'd identified YouTube step-by-step tutorials that would assist in remembering the steps that are of difficulties. Would give him multiple chances of solving a problem. Instead of having one go at it, he would get a chance to do the problem over and over. And of course, he would be rewarded for any small improvements or any small progress that he would have made. Would also use music to assist in remembering steps, and chunking was one of the things that was identified as one of the strategies that could be used to assist Jerome as well. So that's it.
Lovely, Alicia. Thank you for sharing. One of the strategies also that was mentioned is using colored pencils. So, you know, I finished step 1. That one was done in green. I'm going to go to step 2, so I'm going to use a different color. Again, just training his mind in moving from one step to the next. Well done. Thank you.
To another.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All righty. Case study number 3. Jennifer is a first form student who receives special education services to address, Lord have mercy, her needs related to a physical disability. She does not struggle with mathematics, reasoning, and computation. However, she is only able to write with a pencil for short amounts of time because her muscles become fatigued easily and begin to cramp. Who's doing case number 3? Case study number 3.
Can unmute yourself and just present from group 3. Unmute yourself.
Hello, everybody. So from group 3, we identified that the student has dysgraphia, and sorry, I'm just trying to get to the notes here. Right, so the strategies we looked at, we could first and foremost ask the child what method could be used, what method are they comfortable with, for example, presenting their work or accessing their work. We spoke about peer work. She could share orally while someone could write. We could record on tablets. We could use manipulatives, use real life experiences, mnemonics, have her practice copying for short periods of time, and then increase the time. So we're trying now to just get her to become more comfortable and to practice using those muscles. Differentiated resources, more use of technology that she can access, of course, lots of praise so she doesn't feel like she's different from anyone else in the classroom. Exemptions with regards to assessments, for example, extra time and so on, or probably someone reading to her or being her scribe. Ongoing activities to help to strengthen the muscles, and copies of class notes where a highlighter could be used to show important points or so on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ati. As well as one of the other things that they put on, you know, instead of her having to write out too much, maybe give her multiple choice options. So she's just circling in or highlighting the response, the correct answer. Yeah, well, yes, well done. I had something else to say on that, but I'm going to move on. All right, well done. So case study number 5.
4.
4.
All right, good evening, everyone. Okay, so for case study number 4, all right, I'm going to read it first and foremost. Okay, so Tanya is a high-functioning student. However, her parents are concerned that she's doing poorly in class because she does not study for tests and is missing assignments in your class. What strategies, accommodations could be utilized to address this student's need? So the first thing we did was we identified the problem as Tanya being dyslexic. Chances are some of the characteristics that we were able to pick up from the case study was possibly not understanding written instruction that would be given in a test, because most of our tests would be paper and pen, right? And so we were looking also at the possible strategies. So normally, as our presenter had said earlier, for dyslexic children, especially since in the case study it said she's highly functioning, then chances are she may be good at explaining, all right? So she can use simple vocab. So it means that instead of having a paper and pen test, we could have an oral examination. It may also mean that the fact that she's not performing for the test or these assignments is probably because the level at which the tests and assignments are being set is probably a little bit below where she's at, so she's not interested. So we're definitely looking at differentiating not just the instruction, but also the assessment itself. And the very first strategy that we really should have employed, which our group member suggested, as well as our presenter, is that, you know, if the child is not performing, the first thing we need to do is ask her why. Okay, why is it that we're losing her? You know, what's the reason? Is it that, you know, the information is not stimulating enough, or are there other issues, right? So we can plan as many strategies as possible, but if we don't cover that base first, then we're going at it in vain. All right, but let's say that we have asked her why, okay, and we have picked out that, yes, dyslexia is going on. So we can try to be a bit more intentional in our teaching using metacognitive strategies. All right, so chunking the material and scaffolding, reteaching, using graphic organizers, using a lot of text-to-speech, making our PowerPoints and so on available to them so they can go through it at their own pace. And in general, just, you know, kind of praising the students, you know, giving her little tasks to kind of look forward to the next class. So she knows that, okay, this is depending on me for X, Y, and Z, and she feels accomplished. She feels a sense of safety and love, etc. All right. And then also, in order to try and motivate her, they were also suggesting the tiering method. All right. Our presenter had mentioned the whole bronze, silver, and gold thing in terms of math problems and so on, but I guess we could do it also with reading issues. One of our group members has suggested a try, fly, and soar technique, where you would create different activities at different levels. And I am looking to see if I have covered everything. I do believe so. Remember, if I haven't, please tell me.
You guys have covered quite a bit. And it's very interesting that when, you know, things are presented, I had one thing in mind when I gave this case study, and you guys went in a totally different direction, which is clear how things can be misinterpreted, even by, you know, by us. It's not misinterpretation, can be seen in a different way. This child has an issue with dyslexia, more than likely, but also executive functioning. She's not an organized child. She don't know when her test is, she forgets to study, etc., right? High functioning, if she studied, she'd be fine. But yes, you are right. It could be dyslexia. And the first thing to do with a student like this, you were very clear. What's going on? Talk to me. Perfect, lovely. Thank you, group 4. Last one, Marcus is in case 5. Breakout room number 5. I can't go back to bed. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good evening. Yes, Marcus, we identified that Marcus' challenge is Dyscalculia because he's having problem with algebra. You know, algebra is a mathematical section there, and so therefore dyscalculia is the challenge. So first, for our strategy, the teacher will definitely have to do an assessment to find out the strength and the weaknesses in the subject area. So that is very important. So the teacher would want to know exactly where Marcus is not understanding, because sometimes they will understand to a point and then get lost after that. So we want to find out the strength and the weaknesses first. We also want to find out his learning styles. So that will have to be done, you know, at the beginning of the term. So the teacher will definitely will have to do that as first assessment. Find out the child learning style. How does he learn best? And then we will use that now in our strategies. We were looking at a step-by-step directions. This where Marcus will have a one-on-one with the teacher. So using the strength and the weaknesses as a backup, also as a learning style, as a tool to find out exactly how they're going to bring across the lesson. Once the assessment is done, the teacher will have to do the personalized lesson plan to cater for this child, definitely. And so we'll have to do the step-by-step directions. So you build on what he knows already in the assessment, the weakness and the strength. Now we're trying to see if we can build on the weaknesses that he has. So step-by-step direction is definitely, since he's also in high school, I think he said fourth form. So you know you can also use a calculator. And we want to use what Marcus already has are his interests. So his likes and his dislikes. So take for example, he loves football or basketball. We will integrate these, his likes and his dislikes, into the lesson planning also, to bring across the subject in such a way that he will be able to understand. Sometimes children, they don't learn just by looking at the thing, but bringing it into like a reality setting. You're taking the problem of the paper and you're showing them that this also is math, because we know that math is everywhere, math is everything, right? So even in football and basketball, etc., there is mathematics. And just by waking up and going to our bed and doing everything is mathematics. So we're going to put this problem to him in such a way that he recognizes that it's everyday life, right? So we want to build, so that is the scaffolding. That is the scaffolding. So we're going to help him to build and climb the ladder all the way up until he can understand, and then now we can take away the scaffolding and let him go on his own. So during the scaffolding, we will use different types of materials, learning, teaching aids, and so on. He probably loves PS4 and the game thing and so on. You know, you utilize the technology definitely, because children at those age, you know that they understand technology even more than the teacher themselves. So we will have to do that. So instead of the pen and the paper, you will do something hands-on for him to understand what algebra is. What else? We also look at manipulatives. So you will definitely have to have hands-on materials to work with, and hands-on meaning anything at all that you can take in your simple environment, home environment, school environment. You can use them. You're going. For me, I teach the basic schools. You know, we can actually go outside and you pick up some stones or you take some sticks and so on. So it's pretty much the same thing that you will continue to do with the high school student, but you know, at a higher level. Also, the assessment at the end of it also is very, very important, because you want to find out if learning has taken place. So you do your summative assessment of the student, and then now you can go back to your objectives, like your terminal objectives for that child, and see if the objectives were met, or see if anything that you can do that is different, or anything can be added for the next term or time to come for this child to truly understand. So if all these strategies were put in place and utilized, the child should have grasped something. But if not, then the teacher will have to go back to the drawing board or build. If something happened in the positive sense, you just build on that for our next term.
All right, Ms. Williams, thank you very much. I mean, I was in your group and there were a lot of discussion around the fact that this is a high school student. We're going to have to put in things, and then once he gets it there, we're going to pull it back a little bit. We're going to use simply just turn his notebook one way so the columns are lined up so he can go step by step, a number of different strategies. But I think in everything that we have discussed, the biggest deal is to make sure we ask the student, what is the most helpful for you? In the resources, I will also put this, and there are a few suggestions, very few suggestions as well. So it will be in the resources for later. Let's see if I can get back to my slides. Alrighty, so that was our case study discussion. The takeaways from today, hopefully, is a child with a specific learning disability can learn. Though we have a learning challenge, they're not all disabilities. Somebody who writes funny, like I said, my cousin used to write with his finger, oh, it was ridiculous. No learning disability. Just because he has a challenge in writing doesn't mean he has a disability. A learning disability is lifelong. It's the strategies that are used to overcome them. I actually went to a graduate course, and one of the guys in the course, stood up and said, look, we're studying special ed. Let me give you a live example. I have a learning disability. I am dyslexic. What takes you 10 minutes to complete, it takes me half an hour. I have to plan my life appropriately and use these strategies. So this is lifelong, yeah? Many students have other issues such as organization and attention concerns. And I go back, outstanding teaching and learning benefits all students. And it's your encouragement, your praise, your motivation, your belief in them, their sense of safety and security with you that allows them to grow academically. I will answer, do I have 5 more minutes just to lump the questions that came in the chat, Dr. Dice?
Yes. 5 minutes, exactly 5 minutes, because we're over by 5 now.
Huh?
We're over by 5, but yes, 5 minutes,
Okay.
yes.
I'm sorry, I just want to address some of the questions.
Okay.
So again, I always put up Albert Einstein as well. Didn't learn to read till he was 9, failed math. Just consider that when we're thinking of who we may be overlooking in our classroom because they have a disability. Okay, so when I looked at the comments as to what the greatest challenges were, there are quite a few things that came up. One was time, not having enough time to differentiate. One was resources, the parent relationship, assessments, how to assess the fact that sometimes assessments don't happen in time for students who you realize does have a disability and would benefit from a real plan. Student lack of interest. All of those things, hopefully, I have somewhat addressed. One of the pieces like time, resources in terms of physical resources is a challenge. And as teachers, we always look for extra things and do more and pay out of our pocket more than we really should. That's something else. So I can't talk about ministry resources. Those are things that we're going to have to at some point, just as solid people, campaign them for. But in terms of time, when you think of your classroom management skills, that's very important when working with students with disabilities in your class, working with a variety of students. So I'd like you, in terms of saying, I don't have enough time to address the needs, you're not the only one in the classroom. Think about how you can manage your class differently in order to address the needs of all students. So classroom management may be one piece that you need to investigate a little bit further. The student lack of interest, I think we addressed it. When you figure out what they're interested in, use that as motivation, you're going to get a different student. Someone said, you know, yes, we do accommodations in the classroom, but on national exams, we don't have accommodations. Again, that's another fight or another challenge that slowly we work on. Even over here in the UAE, where we're really pushing this whole people of determination thing now. Our national exams have not yet been modified, but it's a slow process. We will continue working on it. That's everywhere. The last thing that I wanted to quickly say is, one of the other questions was, how do we do all of this in virtual classrooms? Very similarly. If you have your virtual classroom, you can still do, hey, Sherry, stay online for an extra 5 minutes. I want to talk to you about something. You still praise in your chat box. You still give big old shout outs on your screen. Hey, good job, Dwayne. You got 7 out of 10 this time. What an achievement. You still do it the same way, similar ways that you do it in the classroom. Unfortunately, we can't touch. We may not be able to touch for a very long time. So the verbal praise, taking a little bit of extra time, again, that extra 5 minutes that you take with the child could mean a world of difference academically. Thank you. I hope this was helpful. And of course, you know, anytime, I don't know about 3 o'clock in the morning again, but anytime pretty much. All right, Dr. Dice, over to you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Sherry Franklin. A special thank you to, I really enjoyed the presentation as well. I'm not a special ed educator, but I understand quite a bit. And what the reason I'm saying that is in the general ed classroom, you find quite a lot of these challenges among students, and we need to identify them early and then get accommodations for these students, because they're really depending on us as educators. So it's really good, very good presentation, a very good discussion as well. And I'm hoping that all of us will spread the presentation information to other teachers out there. Also, the presentation will be available by tomorrow night, I think, to be distributed to everybody who has registered. So we have almost 1,000 people registered. So even though they didn't get to come on the call, then they still will have the presentation. And you can share it as much as possible with others out there. So thank you so much, Miss Shari Franklin. And just as you said, we will have follow-ups throughout the year coming. Also,